everybody, and welcome back to Southern Book Podcast.
I'm Marina.
And I'm Kaylin.
And yes, I know we're in the same clothes as we were in the last episode, but that's because it's a two-parter. Egypt is a lot to talk about. But anyways, just because there is two parts doesn't mean we're going to leave out a fun fact for you guys. Kaylin, did you know there are more synapses, like nerve connections, in your brain than there are stars in our galaxy?
No, but I believe it.
This is literally mind-boggling to me because, like, astronomers estimate that there are more than 200 billion stars present in the Milky Way galaxy, but neuroscientists estimate the number of synaptic connections in the average 3-year-old is close to 1 quadrillion. Yeah. And after that, like after you reach adulthood, you're left with like 500 trillion.
Dude, that's crazy.
Like, there's 1 quadrillion of something in your head. That just doesn't make sense to me.
This is so off topic, but have you ever thought about if we as like people are just like cells or organisms in one giant like big thing?
I mean, like a bunch of cells just lumped together with a consciousness and...
Okay, but like what if like you and I are like both like cells of like God or something? Like imagine if like we're just like one very small piece of something like very, very large and we can't see it because we're so small.
I mean, life can't be created or destroyed, so we probably are part God, or part King Tut, or part Alexander the Great. Like, genetics isn't where we like cut those ends. Like,
True.
but anyways, let's get back on into the Egypt train.
Alright guys, we're flying back into Egypt. Last time we talked a lot about the pyramids. One thing I did leave out, and I don't have a lot of information on, but I highly recommend y'all going and look into, is the water dating of the Sphinx. I had a friend tell me a lot about it, and unfortunately I didn't have time to research it. But apparently recently they found out that the water dating from the Sphinx shows that it is like millions of years older than we actually thought it was, meaning that it outlived all of the Great Pyramids, and that it's from even more ancient of civilizations than we thought, which makes things even crazier.
And people believe that like it originally did have a lion's head, but then once the ancient Egyptians ruled the area, they made it into like a pharaoh's head.
Theory. Okay, so what if like the aliens made it a lion, because like it's kind of how the alien race looked, and then whenever the pharaohs decided to like take over and decide that they can do things their own way, they put a pharaoh's head on it, and so that's why the aliens said, yeah, screw y'all, peace out Egypt. Now we haven't seen them ever again.
Okay, I'm still stuck on the fact that you think that the aliens look like lions.
Oh, who are you to say that they don't look like lions?
What if they came to Earth and they were, well, I don't even think lions had evolved at that point.
Maybe they came from the constellation Leo and
Dude, wait, hold on. Because if the woolly mammoths were still roaming the area, or the Earth, when the Great Pyramids were built, then like, I don't think a lion would be like evolved by that time. Like, I don't think lions were a lion yet.
But there were like saber-toothed lions like in the Ice Age,
That's
so...
tigers. Saber-toothed tigers.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, the big teeth.
Like Diego.
But like, anyways.
Alright, we can get off of that rant there. Anyway, y'all should definitely look into the dating of the Sphinx, because that can get even more crazy than the pyramids did.
Yeah, I've seen something about that somewhere too that really had me like thinking hard. I don't remember where I saw it.
Alright, before I start blabbing about Egyptian mythology, because mythology is my favorite thing in the world to talk about, do you want to walk us through mummification, because that is a crazy process?
Okay. So, turns out the way that humans embalm each other right now is such like a bootleg version of how things used to be. And so, basically, not everyone was turned into a mummy in ancient Egypt. It was like the royal people, the important people. We all should know that. But like a special priest would perform the ritual by reciting prayers throughout the process, starting by removing all the internal organs. And I know we all learned how they like took the brains out the nose with a little hook thing. which like, ew. But anyways, okay, so they took all the organs out their body, and then they would like use this salt called natron or natron to remove all the moisture from the body, so no bacteria would grow, and it would like literally preserve it so well. And they would make the deceased appear as lifelike as possible. If there were like any sunken parts of their body, they would fill it with linen. They would add fake eyes, which just like makes me think of Game of Thrones with the like stone eyes that are creepy as heck. And then they would of course wrap it in linen, making it a mummy. And it's just so like embalmers today, mortuary people. I feel like there's a name, a title for those people that I can't think of right now. But basically, they're doing it so half-assed these days. But then again, all these people roaming the earth, we're not pharaohs, and I guess we're not important enough.
Yeah.
But
And I feel like why they preserved them so well back then is I feel like they thought they went to like the afterlife in the form that they were buried in, which is why they would bury them with so many like precious objects and treasures. They thought they carried that over into the next life.
Yeah, and they would also keep the heart in their body because they believed it to be the center of a person's being and intelligence. Which, sad to say, but the heart is just the heart. It's just an organ. The whole like person's being and intelligence, I really think that's our consciousness. But they would even go as far as to like mummify so many different animals. Cats, dogs, rabbits. I think I've even seen chickens.
Well, cats were sacred in Egypt. Do you know why? I actually learned that today.
Tell me.
So there's actually a cat god. Her name's Bastet, but the cats used to eat like all the rats and the animals that would like eat the fields up. So they viewed the cats as like part of their family and family members, and so they were always sacred. And that's where like the beginning of you see all these cats being worshipped, and like a lot of hieroglyphics or drawings they have is people with heads of cats, and that all stems from the cat god Bastet.
Some History Channel person believes that they produced more than 70 million animal mummies between 800 BC and 400 AD. And that time period is just like, that's like New Kingdom-ish. Like, that's excluding the Old Kingdom where like a lot of this started. But that's probably like more like 700 million mummies of animals. But, wait, mummies of baboons. And frogs. Who would go through the trouble of embalming a frog?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
And cows. I can see a cow. Okay. I just want to know what the like archaeologists thought when they go into a tomb and they see a mummy baboon.
But where do they learn this process from? It's crazy to me as well. Like, how did they learn to do that?
Do you know?
No. It's one of those unanswered questions. None of us know. I mean, lore says that Osiris taught them, the god of the dead, taught them how to pass on to the afterlife. But, I mean, I don't think Osiris was a real person. I don't think he taught them. I think they were taught from somebody.
Aliens.
Probably.
Dude, this says when unwrapped, a typical mummy would weigh just about 5 pounds. That's...
I mean, it doesn't have any organs or anything in it, and bones don't weigh very much. They're pretty light.
And I guess if they were like embalmed with this salt-like thing, it like would maybe erode at the body over time. I don't know. Their mouths were left open. There was a whole ritual known as an opening of the mouth ceremony that required a special tool and was done so that the deceased could eat, drink, breathe, and speak in the afterlife. That's interesting. I've never heard of that one before. And
I bet they stunk. Those mummies have to
yeah.
smell like horrible.
Oh yeah. Dude, did you ever watch that movie? It was like a Disney Channel Halloween movie. It had a mummy in it. And like I could visualize that mummy and just like smell how bad it would smell. Like I just have an idea. That's what I think of
I
every
have
time.
no idea what movie you were talking about, but I was super sheltered.
I think it's
Probably
called like
couldn't watch
Under
it.
Wrapped or something. I don't know, but like these little teenagers come across this mummy and it becomes their friend or something like crazy. Oh, and then they unwrap the face. It's so creepy. Anyways, let me know if y'all remember that movie or if I'm just like I dreamt about it one day. I don't know.
I feel like I do that all the time, like dream like movies and stuff that never actually existed.
Yeah, like sometimes I really don't know if my dreams or if real life is a dream. I don't know. Things get blurred.
Do you have any more notes on mummies?
The remains were used in medicine in the Middle Ages. What?
Wait, the remains of the mummies?
Yes.
That is disgusting.
Oh my god, the troubling special ingredient many medieval Europeans believed helped cure whatever might ail them, mummy flesh. Grave robbers would travel back from Egypt with remains and sell them to everyone from royals to regular civilians for a pretty penny. They were treating any ache or pain by cannibalizing ancient humans. What the heck? Ew. Y'all were crazy back then. Okay. Let's go on for mummies.
Alright, so this is going to move us into some Egyptian mythology, which I'm not just going to tell you a bunch of tales, but I do have to tell some of the tales in order for you to understand about the relics that we're going to talk about that were left behind from them. So the Book of Thoth is kind of popular in culture nowadays because it's like this ancient sacred text that's hidden and we don't know where it's at. It's been in a bunch of video games, a bunch of animes, and then there's movies written after it. There's I'm not trying to offend any witches out there, but there is a big subset of the Wiccan community that follows the Book of Thoth as like one of their ancient texts. So let's talk about what it is. Thoth was the Egyptian god of writing and of knowledge. So he was the one that made the first books that the Egyptians ever had, according to Egyptian mythology. And one of these books he made was the Book of Thoth, which is like a spell book basically. It entitled a bunch of different spells, but it had two super powerful forbidden spells in there. And the first spell allowed you to commune with animals, and the second spell allowed you to control the heavens and the earth. So it was like these two super powerful spells, and they were overseeing the writing of those spells by Ra, which was the sun god, his father. And he put them into this book, but he decided that they were too dangerous for humanity to have. So he sealed the book away and threw it into the middle of the ocean, according to mythology. By the way, if you want to know what Thoth looked like, he's like a man. He has the head of a baboon, but also mixed in with the head of a bird called an ibis.
Okay, now it makes sense why they mummified baboons.
Ah, look, there we go. They probably thought it was Thoth. So everybody thought this was like this super wise god. Well, according to story, everybody wanted to find this book. All the Egyptians back in the day would look for this book because they actually believed it had these cool powers and it could make you like the god. So that everybody wanted it. Well, there was a man, and he was a son of a pharaoh. His name was Setna. And he was so learned in all of the ancient writings. He was a genius of the time, and he was also a magician. And they say this is like actual history, this isn't just mythology. This man, Setna, was a magician of note. They said he had magical powers. Whether you believe that or not, obviously, is up to you. But either way, this man Setna went and he got on a ship and he decided to find the Book of Thoth. Well, as lore has it, he ended up finding the spot out in the ocean. He traveled with his family there. It was his wife and his daughter. And they got out in the middle of the sea and they found where the Book of Thoth was buried, but it was being guarded by these two giant serpents. So he ended up killing both of the serpents and he took this ivory box out from the middle of the ocean. He opened up the ivory box, and inside of the ivory box, there was an iron box. He opened the iron box. Inside of the iron box, there was a silver box. Inside of the silver box, there was a gold box. And inside of the gold box, he found the Book of Thoth. And they knew that it was forbidden to have this book. He knew that he shouldn't have been having it, but he wanted to be like the gods. And he knew that there were grave consequences if he found this book. So he opened it up, and he started to sail back home. He wanted to bring it back to his dad, who was the pharaoh of Egypt, and be like, look, I have all this power. as he's sailing home, his wife falls overboard and drowns. He's like, okay, we're okay, we're just gonna keep going back. His daughter falls ill and dies on the boat as well. So now he's like,
the book.
exactly, because of the curse of the book. And so he said, you know what, I can't just go back to my dad and I'll be like, hey, I brought you this really cool book, but my family died too. So he decides to take the book and he throws himself over the boat and commits suicide.
What sense does that make?
It really doesn't make sense. But I had to tell his story real fast to get into the next man that looks for the book, who, this man has a very, very strange name, and I'm going to look for it real fast. Neferkepta. Yeah, we're going to call him N. Your boy N is the next man that goes to try to find this book, and where the book was laid to rest, apparently, it was locked in a tomb with Setna, the man who committed suicide. So however that ends up working out...
Like underwater?
No, I guess they somehow took the book out. This is where we just have this weird gap in Egyptian mythology, because the book goes from being underwater with him where he drowned himself to being in his tomb. Locked away that nobody else can see it. Well, this man, we're calling him In, comes into the tomb to try to find the book, and he's greeted by these two ghosts. It's a ghost of a little girl and a ghost of a mother. And I'm pretty sure you can already put together who that is. That's Nepta's wife and daughter who drowned. And they tell him, look, our husband tried doing the same thing as you, buddy. You definitely shouldn't take this book. You're going to end up dying. This would happen to our family. He's like, nah, I'm good. You're just some ghost. You can't stop me. So he goes to pick up the book. Well, then your boy Nepta's ghost appears. And he's like, look, I'm warning you one more time. Do not take this book. You're going to end up dying. Well, he ends up taking the book anyway after challenging... They play some weird Egyptian board game to win the book. It's really weird. I'm not going to bore you with all the details of that. But he ends up winning. He takes the book, and then he ends up dying too, and the book is lost forever. Well, there are pages and things that people have found, and Egyptologists have found, that they believe are actually pages that come from out of this book. And they can't have any way of knowing because, obviously a book that was written by the gods is, so illogical. But with everything we're talking about with aliens and stuff, what if it was a manuscript, a book given to us from aliens that are explaining things in life and how to do things, and it was so sacred and forbidden that they didn't want humanity to have it at some point, or they deemed us unworthy of having it, so they hid it away. How crazy and cool would that be? And that's if we're going to link these gods to aliens. And one more thing before I get your reaction on all of this, Thoth is the exact same thing as the Greek god Hermes or the Roman god Mercury. That's kind of how mythology works. All the gods between the cultures are the same. There's just there's the Roman version, there's the Greek version. And if they're all the same, it kind of makes me think there is actually an entity if there is Romans that are seeing the same person, the same thing as Egyptians are seeing this same person. So that's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. There was as you were talking about that, it kind of reminded me of the Bible and what would happen if the Bible was this sacred book that we just found little pages of here and there. Then religion wouldn't be what it is today.
Yeah.
We literally base our lives off of these ancient books. That blows my mind.
Well, Thoth, in his writings, he is... In some of those pages that we did find, there is a part where he is speaking to some of his followers and giving them predictions for things that are to come in the future. And it describes the state of our world today so scarily perfect. And I am going to read it to you real fast because it's horrifying.
I know a lot of psychics and stuff that I've seen about psychics and stuff reference him a lot.
Yeah. He has... it's a lot to do with tarot reading, which I'm not familiar with whatsoever. Maybe you know more about that than with me. Thoth plays a big role in with that as well.
I actually don't know a lot about tarot cards, other than it's intuition based almost.
Yeah.
I never really understood those and got into those.
So there's a lot of text before this little part I'm going to read to you. I'm not going to bore you with all that. But he's basically talking about how the world is going to start turning away from the gods and start thinking that they know everything on their own and they don't need it. Which if you read Revelations in the Bible, and I know I've brought up Revelations like 1,000 times, that's the prophecy version of the Bible. This is basically the exact same thing, just put in different ways with a different entity. So Thoth is telling his followers, well, it's actually Hermes telling his followers, but they're the exact same person. He says, darkness will be preferred to light, and death will be thought of more profitable than light. No one will raise an eye to heaven. The pious will be deemed insane, and the impious wise. The madman will be thought a brave man, the wicked man esteemed as good. As to the soul and the belief that is immortal by nature, or may hope to attain to immortality, as I have taught you, all will mock at you, and will even persuade themselves that it is false. And so the gods will depart from mankind, and only evil angels will remain, those who mingle with men, and will drive the poor wretches by the main force into all manner of reckless crime, into wars, robberies, frauds, and all things hostile to the nature of the soul. Then the earth will no longer stand unshaken, and the sea will bear no ships, heaven will not support the stars in their orbits, nor will the stars pursue their constant course in heaven. All voices of the gods will be silenced and dumb. The fruits of the earth will rot, the soil will turn barren, and the very air will sicken in sullen stagnation. After this manner will old age come upon the world, religion will be no more, all things will be disordered and awry, all good will disappear. And it goes on a bunch more, giving prophecy that it really kind of reminds me of today. Because if you're looking at the way we look at things today, and I'm not just talking about Christianity, but we are turning away from a spirituality-based society to a more science-based. We think that the more answers that we get, the less we have a need, I feel like, for spirituality and religion. And that's predicted from thousands and thousands and thousands of years back, which is kind of crazy to me. Like, what if, even if we're not calling them gods, if we're talking about aliens, like, what if that's why they're forsaking us? They're like, oh, well, they said they don't need us anymore, now we're going to be silent.
I feel like, okay, so the religion part makes sense, but like, I feel like if we're gonna base things off of more science, we almost have to have some kind of spiritual part of us. Because like, this gets into like reincarnation, but I mean, the Egyptians obviously believed in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much reincarnation, like maybe they didn't believe that they would soon be alive back on Earth again, but like the whole idea of religion as having someone to like pray to and like a guideline of how to live and stuff, like that is like totally separate in my brain from like spiritualism. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like, I feel like back then, people were probably so much more aware and woke.
Yeah.
Because like today, if you think about, like, I want to do an episode on consciousness and like the pineal gland and everything. Our government literally calcifies our pineal gland by putting fluoride in our like public water systems. So like you drink in tap water, or even like, I think it's this, like the water bottles you buy from the store have like fluoride in it. I think like only spring water doesn't. That's crazy. Like, we really do need to think more, like, put ourselves in their perspective more, and maybe we'll understand more.
I think we need to stop thinking, so science says physically we can't move this object with our mind, and think,
Yeah.
what if there is a possibility that we can, we just don't understand that we can yet.
Because, like, back to Stephen Greer and his documentary, they basically say, like, the law of physics that we know, or like the law of physics on Earth, and like aliens don't necessarily abide by the same laws of physics because they can like transport themselves.
Yeah.
So like, maybe if aliens were involved, the same physics weren't involved, like they could do things differently. It's so wild.
I don't know, I think we need like a whole new wave of, and I honestly feel like, no disrespect to all the scientists out there right now, y'all's work is amazing,
Yeah,
y'all
you're
work so
talking
hard,
to
you're
a
super
future
genius.
one.
I know, but I'm saying like our generation of scientists, I feel like we look at things vastly different than the generations before us that are scientists. And I think that we needed the older scientists, but I think that our new perspectives looking at things will change science in a way that we haven't seen before.
Another big thing that I've noticed about science is like when there's a new discovery, they're so quick to like concrete it, like this is X, Y, and Z, and this cannot change, and blah blah blah. Like, be more open-minded. Like, do more experiments, and like test your beliefs. Like, if you don't believe that this element is composed of so many whatever, then like test it more. I don't know, like, I feel like we just need to be more open-minded and not stop when we think we have an answer.
I also agree with you, because we thought things like Pluto was a planet forever. That was fact, and now look, it's not. I mean, there could be things like that with other research.
Yeah. Whew. This stuff, man. Egypt really opens all the doors.
Yeah, this last episode should be titled like Egypt /
Pondering about life.
Pondering about life. I mean, if y'all come to Southern Woke Podcast, you know that's what you're gonna get at this point, so you should be used to it.
We're trying to like just wake ourselves up, wake y'all up. Mostly the South, because we all know the South is just. Okay. Side story, but there was this guy that came into Best Buy the other day, and he was telling me, "Oh, I'm a comedian from LA, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go follow you if you follow my podcast." And then we started talking about the podcast, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just trying to wake up these people in the South and make them realize things." And he was like, "I dig that." And I'm like,
Well, he's from LA. He's probably kind of woke.
Well, he's originally from here, and he was like coming back to visit and then going back to LA because he had a show here. But anyways, so I think we should just like talk about other just fun facts about Egypt that are just like WTF.
Let's go for it.
Okay. So when you think of Cleopatra, you think of like Egypt, but apparently she wasn't even Egyptian, which I didn't know. And apparently she was born in Alexandria, and she was a part of the long line of Greek Macedonians, originally descended from Ptolemy? Like, you know that Greek guy that spelled Ptolemy? Like, I don't know how to say that. But he was like one of Alexander the Great's most trusted lieutenants. But like Cleopatra was not Egyptian at all.
That is crazy.
Like,
but she ruled over Egypt, right?
yeah. I'm pretty sure Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, so maybe she came from that. It says that that dynasty ruled Egypt from 323 to 30 BC, and most of its leaders remained largely Greek in their culture. And Cleopatra was famous for being one of the first members of that dynasty to actually speak the Egyptian language. I wonder how that went over, like just some Greek woman coming in and all of a sudden she's a queen of Egypt.
Yeah, there's no way that went over well.
I mean, I feel like I don't know enough about Cleopatra. But anyways. Then it says the ancient Egyptians forged one of the earliest peace treaties on record. They literally did so much. Like, we talk about all these out of this world type stuff, but like when it comes back to like being humans and like building a civilization, they were so good at it.
Isn't that cool? Like the story of humans.
Yes.
I would love to be able to go back to time to like the Egyptian days and just see what was going on.
For a Halloween, I want to like full out turn into an Egyptian goddess. Like,
you're gonna be something other than Wednesday Addams for once?
Leave me alone, okay? She's had a good 3 years. Maybe it's time to be a goddess. I've actually always wanted to be. Like, I remember being in Party City and being like, Mom, I want to be the Egypt girl. But she would, for some reason, or maybe they just never had my size because Party City kind of sucks. But always ended up being some kind of witch. But anyway.
Isn't that like racist these days though to dress up like that?
I mean,
I don't think it is, but I feel like some people out there say it is.
But people get offended by everything these days. Like,
sure.
People would get offended of me straightening my hair because it's naturally curly. Like,
yeah.
Leave me alone. But anyways, apparently Egyptians loved board games, and you brought up a board game. After a long day's work on the Nile River, Egyptians often relaxed by playing board games. Several different games were played, including Mehen and Dogs and Jackals. But perhaps the most popular was a game of chance known as Senet.
That's the game that they played.
Huh. This pastime dates back as far as 3500 BC and was played on a long board painted with 30 squares. Each player had a set of pieces that were moved along the board according to rolls of dice or the throwing sticks. Paintings depict Queen Nefertari playing Senet, and pharaohs like King Tut even had board games buried with them. Wow. Did they create Sari too? Ooh, also a fun fact that like I absolutely love about Egypt is that Egyptian women were treated like as equals to their men.
Yeah.
Like that, you don't really see that in any other civilization. Like, they weren't just thought of as these humans with boobs that can't do anything. And for that, I applaud you, ancient Egypt.
Before this pandemic started, I was supposed to go with my mom to Israel and Egypt, like my whole family. That was going to be our trip, and then it got canceled. So I'm super upset about that. But if I ever do go, you best believe I'm going to take so many pictures for you guys.
Yep, that will be Southern Woke's first vlog.
Right.
Let's see.
My luck would be I would end up disturbing a tomb or something, get like an
my
ancient pharaoh
God.
curse, and then bring it back.
I was watching something not too long ago. It was in Israel, and it was like what they believe to be the tomb of Jesus, I think.
Yeah.
And like it's in this like church, and they like reconstructed it or something. I don't know. It was someone's tomb that was really important, and I want to say it was Jesus, but I don't know for sure. But it looked unbelievable.
Have you seen the stuff with the shawl that Jesus was buried with, like over his face, and like the imprints that his face left, and like they like used science to like recreate his face? It's super cool.
No.
We're gonna have to look up that one day.
Dude, by the time we're like old and done making podcasts, I just want to talk about like every ancient civilization, just talk about like every country's history ever. Yeah. Like we would never get bored. You guys would never get bored unless you think history is boring, in which case I would say we need to learn from our history. It's important. Let's see, what else is pretty cool? Ooh, Egyptian pharaohs were often overweight. Because probably all they did was eat their wheat and grains.
Well, back in the day, being overweight was like a good thing. Like,
yeah,
it was
like
very
a sign of
attractive,
wealth.
and it was a sign of wealth.
Yeah, Egyptian art commonly depicts pharaohs as being trim and statuesque, but this was most likely not the case. The Egyptian diet of beer, wine, bread, and honey was high in sugar, and studies show that it may have done a number on royal waistlines. Examinations of mummies have indicated that many Egyptian rulers were unhealthy and overweight and had diseases because of incest. And it says a notable example is Queen Hatshepsut, who lived in the 15th century. While her sarcophagus depicts her as slender and athletic, historians believe she was obese and balding.
Oh my god. Could you imagine?
I believe it, I mean, because, like, I thought King Tut was, like, this hot young prince king thing, but he is so not hot at all.
You said,
like,
he is ugly.
Yeah. Like, because when I think of King Tut, I think of, like, that gold, like, thing that was put over his face, but that was not him at all. I think that was, like, Osiris that they painted that after. But can we talk about how pretty it was? Like, the crystals and the stones that they put in that thing was, like, that blue, like, color.
And blue is so hard to come by back then.
I think it's called, like, lapis something.
Yeah.
So pretty. I want that stone. Oh, wow. This fun fact is the pyramids were not built by slaves. And by the way, this is coming from history.com, just in case, like, whoever from history.com ever comes across this, like, here's your acknowledgement. Wow. Okay, Okay, King Tut may have been killed by a hippopotamus.
What?
Okay, wait, we gotta read this paragraph. So they thought that he could have died from a bite from a hippopotamus, and evidence indicates that the Egyptians hunted the beasts for sport instead. So, if the boy Pharaoh was indeed fond of stalking dangerous game, then his death might have been the result of a hunt gone wrong. But I don't really believe that he was attacked by a hippo. That's just a little crazy. And, like, hippos aren't really talked about in Egyptian culture. Like, we literally hear about baboons and these weird birds and all that, but like, you don't really hear about hippos.
So, fun fact, you actually do. So, Osiris's son, I hope I'm telling the story right, it's been so long since I heard it, but Osiris's son is Anubis, which was the god of mummification. And at one point, Anubis is fighting Set, which is the person that killed Osiris, and Anubis transforms himself into a hippopotamus and goes underwater. And then he says they have like a contest to see who can hold their breath the longest between Set and Anubis to see who wins the fight or whatever. And he becomes a hippo to win the contest. So actually, it is mentioned in Egyptian mythology.
Okay, one other time. But I guess that's enough. Okay, so also, Egyptians of both sexes wore makeup. And I love this because, dude, when I used to watch like the History Channel when I was bored as like a young teen, I would think those Egyptian guys as the reenactors were so hot with their eyeliner. I think that's where like my emo phase
I was just about to
started.
say, like, that's why you like the bands you like.
But like, gosh, I used to think the guys that they got to play in those reenactments were so hot. Maybe that's why I have a boyfriend now with like an Egyptian-ish skin tone. I wonder what he would look like with eyeliner.
You can have a fun night.
He almost let me put makeup on him one time, but he would never actually let me probably. But it says vanity is as old as civilization, and the ancient Egyptians were no exception. Both men and women were known to wear copious amounts of makeup, which they believe gave them protection of the gods Horus and Ra. These cosmetics were made by grinding ores like malachite and galena into a substance called coal, but not C-O-A-L, it's K-O-H-L. It was then liberally applied around the eyes with utensils made out of wood, bone, and ivory. Oh my god, I could not imagine applying eyeliner with like wood or bone. Ew. I would like literally have a sty in my eye every, like 24/7. Women would also stain their cheeks with red paint and use henna to color their hands and fingernails. And both sexes wore perfumes made from oil, myrrh, and cinnamon. Wow, I bet they smelled so good. I can just like imagine walking into like a pyramid and it just smells like incense.
I don't know, because they definitely like bathed in the river, so I don't think they can smell that great.
But I mean, hey, cinnamon's pretty strong.
Sure.
But Egyptians believed their makeup had magical healing powers, and they weren't entirely wrong. Research has shown that the lead-based cosmetics worn along the Nile actually help stave off eye infections. Wow. Wow, so applying makeup with wood around your eye keeps away the eye infections. WTF.
Honestly, we should just go back to how we did things in the Egypt days.
Yes and no.
Let's rebuild that society. They were thriving back then.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Man, okay. I literally had a thought in my brain and it slipped. Imagine that. But, anyways.
Alright, y'all. Well, we're not going to get into too many bigger topics that are going to take up too much time. So we're probably going to go ahead and call it for the day there. If y'all know any other facts about Egypt or have anything you want to add to this, please let us know. We would absolutely love to hear it. And if there's anything we messed up on or got wrong, please be free to call us out on this, because me and Marina are definitely not experts on Egypt. We just do a lot of research online and then we convey that information to y'all. So if we're ever getting something wrong, please let us know so we can correct ourselves.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have those hard book, straight from Egypt facts. But who really does?
The Egyptians, the aliens.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably where everything is hiding. The aliens probably either have it all with them, or they have, disguised it underground so well. But, according to that Dr. Sarah girl, there is still so much under the sand dunes of Egypt. Holy crap. I was trying to watch, there's, this documentary on Netflix, the Saqqara Pyramid or something. Unfortunately, I fell asleep watching it last night because I was tired. But, it just goes to show, that documentary was made in 2020 and discoveries are happening all the time. And so hopefully we will literally never get bored of Egypt.
Yeah. Not in our lifetime, at least, I doubt.
Mm-mm. So, you guys, if you want to, if you like this whole history thing, let us know what, other ancient civilizations y'all want to hear about. We could cover the Sumerians, the Greeks, the Romans, the early Chinese dynasties. There's a lot about Russia that I've learned about recently, including Putin and his sus activities. There's just so many things about countries all over the place that I want to talk about.
Y'all let us know, and I doubt we'll have hit it by the time this episode comes out, but we are going to be coming up on 5,000 downloads very soon. So if y'all have any ideas of what we could do for that, or a way to treat y'all and say thank you for all of y'all that have been listening to us and supporting us for this long, please let us know.
Yeah, whether that be another viewers vote on the next episode topic, or I don't know, man. That's why we need y'all to help us out. This isn't just me and Kaylin. This is all of us.
We're all in this. I'm so glad you joined. Alright, y'all. Until next time, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Southern Woke Podcast, and give us a shout out on YouTube. Follow us and subscribe at Southern Woke Podcast.
Yeah, and you can follow me at Marina Renee on Twitter and Instagram.
And me at Kaylin Ricardo.
Until next time, you guys, stay woke.